Welcome to S.H.I.F.T, a safe haven in honor of Linda, the beloved sister and best friend of your dynamic and inspirational host, Lisa Council. You will experience uplifting and encouraging testimonies of women, men, and teens who have survived and overcome domestic abuse and trauma.
Welcome back to S.H.I.F.T. I am super excited about our guest on today, my dear, beautiful, bold, and courageous sister, Kia Wallace. Kia and I have known one another throughout the domestic violence advocacy world for a few years now. And we've gotten to know one another a little better over the past month or so as being both students of the Roper Institute Academy. So I'm just super excited to have Kia with me on today. She's beautiful inside and out. Her spirit is just beautiful. She's an amazing spoken word artist and a mom and a victims advocate. And Kia has just inspired me in more ways than she actually knows. So Kia, welcome to S.H.I.F.T. We're so thrilled to have you.
I'm so thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me on to your podcast. I really am just glad to be here. I have not really tapped into my own personal story very much. I do work as a domestic violence advocate. I've been doing that for 3 years, and I work for CAFI, Community Advocates for Family and Youth. But I've always been an advocate for domestic violence because I believe that it's important to highlight it. Many people shy away from it. It's not a pretty thing to be part of. But many people also shy away from it because they live in denial or they minimize how significant it is in their lives. And I think I was one of those people for many years until it really hit me in my face. And that sounds kind of too, similar to many people's thoughts about many other things that people try to advocate for. But I think domestic violence is so important because it leaks into so many other areas of life. Particularly when you think about just how people operate day to day, trying to figure out how they're going to do simple things like pay their bills and things like that. Domestic violence definitely has an impact on that. And my story definitely includes many things like that.
Wow. People really don't see that side of it. What we go through when we're going through domestic violence, but what we are also challenged with and what we face when we're coming out, and when we're on our healing journey. So before we go any further, of course, we always like to share some of the tags that are associated with domestic violence, and the tags are honestly limitless, and the triggers are limitless. So we're
Mhm.
going to start off just by sharing that some of the strongholds and tags of domestic violence is verbal, emotional, sexual, financial, spiritual, bullying, cyberbullying, elder abuse, human trafficking. And we can go on, like we said, there's so many facets. And so I always feel like it's important to touch on those tags so that people can be aware and that they know what to look for, because sadly society only touches on verbal and sexual and physical. You very seldom hear of emotional abuse. I've never actually heard of spiritual abuse publicly, outside of us as domestic violence advocates and activists discussing it and educating on it. It's nothing I've never heard about it on the news or taking place in any other arena.
Mhm.
And honestly, I don't know how society deems bullying, but it's abuse. it's a form of abuse. So we
It really
must
is.
cognizant of these things. And so Kia, can you go into and just tell us briefly about your journey of being hit with domestic abuse?
Oh, yes. Well, as I mentioned earlier, I think that I was in denial about it as I learned about domestic violence being raised. But I actually was a witness to it as a child. And as advocates and people who work with trauma impacted individuals, we know that that has impact on people as they grow up, ACEs. And so I did look up, just as I was preparing for this, I looked up what uh, the definition of ACEs was, or what some of the ACEs are, which that's a long list of various things. But one thing
Mm-hmm.
that stuck with me is said that children growing up with toxic stress may have difficulty forming healthy and stable relationships. They may
Mm-hmm.
also have unstable work histories as adults and struggle with finances, job stability, and depression throughout life. These effects can be passed down on their own children. Some children may
Mm-hmm.
face further exposure to toxic stress from ongoing traumas. These ongoing traumas include impacts of poverty resulting from limited educational and economic opportunities. And I know we talked about this on the training that we just did, very heavy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, in my own life, I grew up child of addicts. Particularly, my mother was one, and I was with her on and off in my childhood through, up until I turned 18, and just witnessing what she went through as far as domestic violence. Some of those things became the norm or acceptable,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and then some of those things were like, I'm not going through that when I get older. So I think it very impacted me because I got married twice, very young.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I was very young. That relationship, it was not abusive at all. It just was simply not its time. But the second time, I was love bombed very, very hard in the beginning
Mm-hmm.
stages, and trauma bonded with this individual because we came from
Mm-hmm.
similar backgrounds. We had similar ACEs. And
Yeah.
we were both very aware of those. We were very aware of how they impacted us. And if we were to have children, which him and I, we did not. And I had a child when he met me. So I was already a single parent. I was the perfect victim for him to take out all the things that he had been dealing with throughout his childhood. I had to deal with him processing that. And that's how I look back
Mm-hmm.
at it in hindsight with the domestic abuse that I endured. Mine did definitely was spiritual abuse. So you've never
Mm-hmm.
heard that publicly. My story is very heavy on the spiritual abuse because my husband, well, former husband, he and we were Jehovah's Witnesses. And he was
Mm-hmm.
raised in that faith. I was not. Um, but it impacted how our relationship played out. And overall, we were together for a total of 10 years. So
Mm-hmm.
this was from age 21 until I was 31 that I dealt with the up and down, back and forth traumas and just drama with him. But in August of 2013, actually August 15th, I'm very remembering of dates.
Mm-hmm.
That's my maternal grandmother's birthday. I went to jail for the first time, and I got arrested during a domestic violence incident. My boyfriend at the time, which is actually my second husband, he had decided he wanted to put his hands on me and my mother in retaliation because he was upset that she tried to insert herself in some things that she didn't see were going well at our house. And she came to visit, and he smacked my mom in the face during this exchange of words. So then I
Mm-hmm.
got involved, and he was very bigger than I am. And I threatened him with a knife in my kitchen if he did not, let me go or whatever like that. But I didn't stab him or anything. And I called 911. But
Mm-hmm.
I went to jail, and I had to go through a lot of different things, including I lost custody of. At that time, me and him, we did have a child. My son was 7 months old. I lost custody of my son because of that. Like I said, that was my first time going to jail, and also, while they did arrest me for this incident, they also did screen me for, lethality and all that. And,
Yes.
they screened me in for being high risk in a domestic violence situation, which I knew that. They didn't have to tell me that. I already knew where I was living. But they offered me some resources there at the jail that I could contact after I got out, if I got out, if I bonded out. And I did. I bonded out that same day. But the resources that I contacted, they weren't very helpful, or they were just not good leads, I would say. But I would say, I came to realize that this was not a good situation, especially with the impact of losing a kid and, having to really go through all those things. I had to do abuse intervention uh, because they looked at me as the offender in the matter by the legal standards because I was arrested. I couldn't even go home. There was no contact ordered between him and I. And I was fortunate enough to live with my aunt during the period of time until I went to my trial. Um, but I would just to backpedal a little bit when I went through that situation. When I got out of jail, I went and stayed at a women's shelter, and that was just an interesting experience. It was supposed to be a lot of supports and things that helped me move forward. I would say that they didn't go that way,
Yes.
but fortunately, I got to stay with my aunt during that period of time, and I was fortunate enough that that day when I got arrested, my dad's girlfriend at the time, which is now his wife, she got arrested that day too. But hers was something like not criminal related. They just brought her there to face the commissioner, and I told her what was going on because she asked the correctional officer to put us together in a cell, and I told her what was going on, and she helped me keep my job because I had to be to work that day when this happened. So she called my job and she made up something, and it worked. So I kept my job, but it was very hard to show up and do my job every day. And then I had my oldest child with me. She was about 6 at the time. So me and her, we were living with my aunt, and that was a displacement for her. Why am I not home in my own bedroom and things like that? And not only that, we passed by our house every day because we lived like 2 blocks away. So that was kind
Wow.
of heartbreaking. Every single day, I'm driving back and forth to work. I'm passing my own house, and during that period of time, my aunt and many other family members, they were just so big on encouraging me to leave him alone, move on with your life, that type of thing. I was not
Yeah, right.
for
I
many
I get it.
for many reasons. I was not, and I already was determined that I was going back home. More so, I would say the pride was more so because I was like, okay, I worked very hard for my place. I want to go home,
Yeah.
outside of him. But of course, I'm like, well, I would want to try to be, together as a family so we could take care of our child. And, you know, but at the end of the day, I mean, it was something inside me. It was just like, okay, you just should let it go. But I didn't until I returned back home because I went to court and I was found out guilty for everything. And I was just so whiplashed by that because I'm like, all that I went through, like all the therapies. I mean, I was sitting in there with women that had shot and stabbed their husbands or sometimes their wives if they were, married to a woman. So it was like, these people had really acted, and sometimes they were not. It wasn't in retaliatory. A lot of the cases were retaliatory to some
Yes.
abuse or something they were experiencing, but sometimes they were really the abusive party.
Yeah.
And so I remember this lady, being naive at that time, and she asked me for a ride home after the group, and I said, "Sure, I'll give you a ride home." And we get in the car, we're just chatting it up. I didn't know her at all. And she's just like, yeah, I'm getting ready to go in here and cook my husband some food. And I'm thinking, the husband that you stabbed, the one that you talk
Mm.
about all the time in the
Mm-hmm.
group,
Yeah. Yes,
they weren't even supposed to be having no contact. He had a protective
absolutely.
order. So,
Mm-hmm.
this opened my eyes to what this really is, perhaps why even some of the people, when I would go to counseling or go to here, or go to there to get help, why they had such a lackluster attitude or maybe weren't even very helpful at all. I would say it was a lot of people just really out here. They're just doing whatever they want to do, even though they may say they were victimized or whatever.
Yep.
It really dampens the services for the real people that really are sincere and needing help.
Yes.
But that's what I experienced back in that time. So, I went back home after I was found acquitted, and my boyfriend, he refused to pay any bills during that period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And so that put me in a financial strait because a lot of those bills were in my name solely, including like the light bill and utilities, things like that. And not only
Mm-hmm.
that, he moved a tenant in the back of our house, so he was renting out part of my house while I wasn't living there and wasn't
Wow.
even paying any bills. And I come back, everything's piled up on me. I ended up, my son turns a year old, and I found out I was pregnant like the next day. So there now are two children by him.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And he's like, oh my goodness, I can't believe you're having another baby, as if I figured out how to do that on my own. But um, so I just really felt like, yeah, this is really a bad situation. I ended up moving to North Carolina shortly after that and that was in March of 2014, because my mother at that time, she was dating a gentleman. He's originally from North Carolina. So, they presented the opportunity to move just as a fresh start because it was such a mess after going through all that legal stuff and then
Mm-hmm.
really just seeing that he was not sincere about doing anything to rectify our relationship. So I moved to North
Mm-hmm.
Carolina, but then I get down there and my mom, she has a change of heart about how she wants to do things. And she moves up, she breaks up with that guy, she moves on. So I'm down there by myself, unsupported with two kids and I'm pregnant. And so, of course, it was perfect for me to reach out to my children's father and he was helping me financially with my son while I was pregnant. And then towards the end, when I got ready to have the next baby, he actually came and got him and he stayed in Maryland until my daughter was like a month old. So I went through that, by myself. I had a baby, but my mom was with me, but it was weird the first time having a baby and nobody came to visit me or anything. The dad wasn't there. And
Yeah.
so, it was just very unique. But I ended up needing him to help me with those kids because my mom essentially left me there with all three of them by myself about
Mm.
like 6 months after that. And so he came down to visit. He was just coming to visit. He had never been in North Carolina before. And I was like, okay, well, he came down. He ended up not going back. Like he just ended up staying and we ended up getting back together.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I revealed to him that I was studying to be a Jehovah's Witness. I did not tell him because we really only communicated about what our children needed. Like it was just like that. We weren't really a couple. He was in Maryland. I was in North Carolina. But when he came down there, I was like, hey, this lady's coming over. We're going to study the Bible tomorrow at 1 o'clock, just to let you know in case somebody knocked on the door. And so he didn't think anything of it, but actually he started going back to the Kingdom Hall on his own. He got connected with the people there. And then that kind of pressured me into going into it a little bit more serious myself because I was just studying just to learn the Bible. I was not intending on
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
becoming one. But, with everything going on, he felt inclined to tell me, hey, we need to just go ahead and get married, raise our family, all that. So we did. We got married actually March of 2016. And everything was okay. We were like this high regarded couple in our congregation. Oh, we just love her and we loved him too. He was I mean, everybody loved him. He had a good reputation amongst the people down there. I mean, for us to not even be from there, those people really they thought highly of us. But shortly, his mask slipped. He started becoming very abusive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I hate to say, I mean, not to make this a thing about religion, but I hate to say, I think that religion particularly influenced a lot of this because of how they have things set up, patriarchy like. Um,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
so um,
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I first joined and I got married, I was finishing up my degree. I graduated college in 2017. And they when I got married and I got baptized into the Kingdom Hall like 3 months after I got married, 4 months, something like that. And they were like, "Oh, so you're gonna stop going to school now?" I'm like, "I
Yes.
graduate next year." No, indeed, I done
Mm-hmm.
worked hard for this. And
Right.
everybody's not like that. Not every single person, but many of them who are into it in a weird way or heavily indoctrinated into it, they act as if I'm supposed to just stop going to school. I'm not supposed to work. Or if I do work,
Mm-hmm.
just part time, something on the weekend or something. I was just supposed to be a stay at home mom and be going out knocking on doors, talking to people. And that's supposed to be my life. I'm
Right.
supposed to be happy. And
Mm.
so it came to a point where I seen that that's where he went at, because at first he was very encouraging. I remember when school got very hard and I felt like quitting. I had to take physics, I think 3 times. I've not used physics at all since I went, but I felt like giving up. And I told him, I was like, look, it's just getting really too hard. I don't know if it's just too much with having to take care of the kids and blah blah blah. I don't know, because my kids were babies and toddlers when I was going to college. And he was like, "Oh no, we're gonna meet with your advisor, and we're gonna figure this out." And he did. He helped me arrange a meet with my advisor, and he was very serious about helping me finish. But once I finished, I really seen a change of events. Really
Wow.
trying to make things challenging for me to get jobs. Um, why are you looking over there for that job? Or I've worked as a nursing assistant since I was in high school. Well, I got my CNA license after I graduated. So that was always my job. I was a nursing assistant, and so why you want to do that? That's such a low wage job, or it's a low level
Mm,
job.
yes.
You should
Yeah.
be a nurse. I mean, things like that. So it was like a
Mm.
lot of just overall, it was just like little by little, I started getting, after I got married, I started getting beat down very hard. And then he started really, financially abusing me because he was a breadwinner.
Mm. Yes.
It first started because I would have to say, I don't know if this is why, but I found out that he was having some inappropriate conversations with other ladies at the Kingdom Hall.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so he comes home from work one day, because I reached out to the elders in our congregation just to see what the world do I do. I didn't have any
Mm-hmm.
evidence of him like actually seeing anybody or doing anything physical or sexual or anything like that, but just the constant texting and things like that.
Yes.
And actually two of these ladies, they were supposed to be close friends of mine, so that was like a betrayal from them too. But
Absolutely.
instead of him facing the music when they tried to confront him about that, he came home and he moved us an hour away. Came home like,
Wow.
I found a house down here. We're moving next week. And so I just literally had to uproot and move. I mean, literally. So
My
we moved,
goodness.
and then I went to a new congregation with a new group of Jehovah's Witnesses that I don't know, but they knew a lot of the people from my old congregation, and it was just like, my next door neighbor, she was a Jehovah's Witness. Her mom, her aunt,
Wow.
to her aunt, my whole house was surrounded by Jehovah's Witnesses. And I found that to be very interesting during this period of time, because I knew that he wasn't going to be able to keep it a secret how he was treating me for long. Especially with people being that close to you, they're going to see something and say
Yeah, they're
something.
going to see some red flags, of course. So we're
Yeah.
going to move on along. Wow. Goodness gracious, Kia, you've said so many things that have, stuck out to me. So
Hmm.
many red flags, so many things that I can personally relate to. We share a lot of things in common, and my goodness gracious. So leading up to you being able to, come out of your living in an abusive situation to finding, your freedom and finding
Hmm.
you, what made you become passionate about becoming a victim's advocate?
Well, I would say I didn't necessarily have a deep passion to really jump in it
Mm-hmm.
professionally, but I always thought it was important. Like every October, purple is my favorite color. My birthday's in
Mm-hmm.
October. So I always knew Domestic Violence Month was that month. And then I knew the importance of it. But I would say it always stuck with me, my experience that I had that time when I went to the women's shelter and during that period of time when I was seeking services after I had went to jail. But I really would say that that stuck with me because some of those ladies were very rude, and not to me. This is when I
Mm-hmm.
was in the
Mm-hmm.
shelter, and it's my roommate because I had to share a room with this lady, and I think she had 5 kids. And they were like, "Oh, if her
Yeah.
kids are getting on your nerves, just let us know," and all that. Them children are children; they're not bothering me. Those children
Wow.
were uprooted all the way from New York. That woman ended up in Maryland, in Salisbury, Maryland. That's where I'm from. She ended up down
Wow.
there because her daughter was a college student at the local college there, and her boyfriend was beating her up so bad that she
Mm-hmm.
fled to her daughter who was in college, working at some little store at the mall. And,
Yes.
so it was like these people are like in the worst time of their life. Like they don't need to be treated like, or their children need to be microscopically watched, or, they get in trouble
Yes.
for every little thing. So that was bothersome. And also, they gave me a hard time because I worked night shift at that time. And, shelters have hours and things like that. So they gave me a little bit of grief about going out for me to go to work at 11 o'clock at night. And it was just like just little things like that over time.
Mm-hmm.
Having supposed to have legal services provided, like legal aid or something like that, and they not call you or not show up.
Yes.
And that's what happened with me also. I was supposed to have been meeting with one of the attorneys to speak about getting some help so that I wouldn't lose custody of my son. And I ended up losing custody of my son.
Wow.
Fortunately, that day, my son's great grandfather was there, which was his dad's grandfather. And he got up when that happened and he asked them to give him custody. So actually, my son went with his great grandparents during that time. And thankfully for that, because yeah, they didn't show up. It was just so many things that I felt like I just didn't matter. Or I'm just another one, you know what I mean? Like I just
Right.
felt like I if I could ever have the chance of volunteer or otherwise, even if it was not even mission driven, if it's just helping out my neighbor who I know is going through.
Mm-hmm.
And I have done that before because even when I was going through that period, it was a girl that lived across the street. I could tell by just seeing things and her children play with mine. I knew something was going on over there too with her and her
Right.
boyfriend. So it's like anything that you can do to be helpful, that makes an impact too. So I just think paying it forward for the things that were good done for me and just being able to support those in need is just always been what I want to do.
I love that. And let's just lead up into where you picked off. As an overcomer of domestic violence as well as a victim advocate, can you just briefly give us one thing that you feel like victims still stand in need of? We have programs in place, we have
Hmm.
support systems set in place, but there's so many things that you just touched on, in your own story and in your own journey. And there are several things that could be perfected, and there are things that I think that we're still missing. So can you just briefly give us one
Hmm.
thing that you feel like domestic violence victims are in need of?
Well, top of the list, no doubt, is always resources and support.
Mhm.
However you define that. Uh,
And
and it doesn't always mean money either. I think that
yes.
just recognizing wraparound services. For example, we support at my job where I work at, many times we support relocation for safety. That's great
Yes.
and all, but how about all the other things that that entails? Somebody needs a
Yes.
moving truck. They may even need movers to help. If they got
Yes.
three little ones, those little ones can't carry a couch. So it's just like really recognizing those small things that each one needs is
Yes.
very important. The support is so many people, and I really try to do my best to empathize in a professional way, of course. But it's so many people who just simply don't have anybody.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
I've simply felt like that many times in my own life. Yeah, my
Hmm.
parents are alive and well, but my parents, they were very young when they had me for one. So that's a big difference between me and many of my peers. My mom is only 20 years older than me, so I think that sometimes had an effect where many other peers, their parents may already be set up, retired off of jobs and things like that. But
Yes.
my parent was not. My parent
Yeah.
had mental health issues. My parent had drug addiction, so that interrupted periods of employment and things like that. I didn't always have that support. So I think recognizing everybody doesn't have the same starting point or the same family,
Yeah. Yes.
or don't come from the same place you come from. I think that needs to be
Absolutely.
recognized
That's true.
big time with advocacy, because sometimes I think with from a professional standpoint, when I go to ask for certain things for an individual, or I'm trying to help advocate for them, it might seem bizarre, but I'm like, hey, these people really need this because they don't have these
Yes.
people in their life. So I think recognizing that is important. But I think also helping the women recognize the potential threat against their life. Many times I
Yes.
contact ladies to, offer services or to see how they're doing. And they just, oh, I don't need that. Or, everything's good now. Or if I ask
Yeah.
them about their children, how are your children doing? Have they been acting differently, or do you think they might want to talk about it? Oh, the kids are all right. The kids are fine. No, they're
Yeah.
not. They're
Right.
not.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yes.
So I
So,
think,
Kia,
yeah,
I love that wraparound services. That's exactly what so oftentimes us who are going through the transition need. And I
hmm
would love to invite you back so that we can touch, on those wraparound services. Listen, we know that you are an amazing spoken word artist. So I was hoping that you could bless us with something really briefly, if you can,
sure.
while we're wrapping up. And then if you could close us out, that would be wonderful.
Okay, great. So this is just going to be a little piece from a poem I did called My New Thinking. And this was actually my first poem I did publicly. It says, I am a victor. I am no victim. The pieces of paper don't hold back deranged men. And when they get arrested, they release them again and again. I wasn't hit. He wasn't mean. Sometimes abuse was verbal, financial, and unseen. It's been some years now, and my home is serene. However, many days I get set back for days emotionally, and he walks around carefree. Venting gets played out. People say he probably isn't thinking about you, and get over it. How long has it been? I'm now down to one fair weathered friend. This is insufficient. When I deal with all four seasons in a week, most of my old friends were so inconsistent. Many days and ways I have been so bleak. But if you know, you would understand the perspective I have. One thing is for sure is I am forever not the same. And so that's a little piece of that. It's a lot longer, but for
I
time, I'll
love
just save
that.
it there.
Thank
Yeah,
you
thank
so
you.
much. Thank you. And would you like to close us out by sharing
Sure.
with anyone who may need help, wraparound services, on their journey towards finding their freedom?
Yes, if you or anyone that you know is experiencing domestic violence, you can help find you can find help and resources by contacting the domestic violence hotline at 1-800-799-7233. And if you or anyone else needs help with suicide prevention, you can also find help and resources by dialing 988.
Kia, thank you so much. You have been such a blessing. I'm just in awe of you. You have touched me in so many ways.
Oh,
I'm
thank
looking
you.
forward to where we can just partner and do things together and help bless others, because you said it key is giving back. And I truly believe that's what victims as well as survivors and us overcomers need most, even when we're still, when we found our freedom, and when we're living life openly and carefree, we still need, support. Um,
Mhm.
because sometimes those triggers come back, those flashbacks come
Mhm.
back. So I would love to invite you back, honestly, soon, so that we can just, talk more, strategize more, talk about wraparound services, and continuing to set the captives free. So thank you so much, and God
Yeah,
bless you,
thank
Kia.
you. Thank you. Thank you. God bless you too. I am so thrilled. Thank you.
What are you doing to heal? Remember, your healing is imperative. Healing renews, soothes, and makes you whole. Shift. See you right here next time.